All right, this is Daniel chapter 2, verse 29. And it says, as for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed. What should come to pass hereafter? And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. All right, and what happened is you had Nebuchadnezzar that built the actual statue, man, out there in Shushan, what used to be called Nimrod's home, or it's called Babel. All right, but today it's called Shushan, and they built the temple to Baal and the damn devil, and also they had that's what Nimrod built the temple of Baal at. All right, and also they had their houses out there. So it says and what's his name, Nebuchadnezzar built this damn statue out there. All right. As you can see right here, Babylon. Now you have this is an increased visual of that area that you can't really see right here, called Babylon. So you see what's around it. They have the golden image. See that? And it was near the Tower of Babel. And that was right there outside of Babylon, or inside of Babylon, but right next to it in the plain of Duran, or Dura, or Duran. All right, right next to Baghdad. This is Babylon, the center of idolatry. So that's yep. So they basically modern day Iraq, northern and southern Iraq. We had what was his name, man? They killed that dude, man. Saddam Hussein. That guy tried to reestablish the Babylonian walls and all that shit, man. All right, the walls of Ishtar and all this wicked shit over here. So when they had the Battle of Carchemish in 606 BC or 605, that's where it was at, Carchemish, right there up top. All right here. And the War of Megiddo, that's where it happened at. All right, with Egypt and the Hyksos and the Nubians. All right, before the Assyrians and shit like that, man. And that's where the war happened at. So I just wanted to show that real quick, man. This whole area, that's where they was at. All right, so they had the temple here, and that's where Belshazzar was at. That's where he got taken from. But then when his dad Nebuchadnezzar was taken, his dad was up here near a place called Opus, and that's where he got exiled from. So I'm gonna get into that too when I go into Daniel chapter 5. So it says Daniel chapter 2 and 20 and 30. I mean, but as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom, that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. All right, so the Lord didn't give Daniel that secret or the ability to understand visions for his own wisdom. He increased him for the saving of Israel in that situation. All right. So it's nothing that we doing. We're considered unprofitable servants. All wisdom coming from Yahweh. Right? But he was more excellent than any. He had an excellent spirit. He was more excellent than those people. Daniel was. but the Lord raised him up to deliver him and the ones that believed at that time from that onslaught, that flood that was coming in after him, when Nebuchadnezzar said, "Kill all the wise men of that area of Babylon, all right, all the provinces." And part of those wise men were the nobles that were taken around 606 and also 586. Okay, so the ones that were taken with Daniel were all nobles, what you call wise men, all right, and priests. So it says, but thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. All right. It says, actually, I'm gonna get it. Well, I'm gonna just read it. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Right? So thou sawest till that stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and break them to pieces. All right, now this is the actual statue. You know, it most likely probably looked like this, man, because he had a statue of himself, and he made people worship it and bow down to it. All right. Now it says kingdoms represented. So when he said the gold, as Daniel going to explain to Nebuchadnezzar that Babylonian kingdom was the head of gold. All right, the real beginning of our punishment. All right, and our downfall as a nation, all the way up until 70 AD, when it was really taken down, and later was in slavery under Esau. All right, it says breast and arms of silver. So that's the Medo-Persian Empire, or the Persian Empire that later became the Persian and the Medes. All right, the Medo-Persian Empire. It says the belly. The Babylonian Empire, right? Which really started in about 625 or 628 BC, and then you had the Medio with Nebuchadnezzar. Then you had the Medo-Persian Empire, which really kicked off around 550, and then he took Lydia in 547, and then he took Babylon in 540, 539. All right, so so he took Media in 550. He was voted. Cyrus the Great was voted in power by the Persians in, I think, around 560. So 550, he got put into power. If I'm not mistaken, he got put into power with the Medes. All right. In 547, he took Lydia. In 539, he took Babylon. So you had the belly and the thighs of brass, the Macedonian Empire, which was the Greek Empire. All right. Was later changed, was extended out by Alexander, the Greek, the Macedonians, and was later changed over to what you call the Diadochi, which is the successor families that ruled from Syria, but they were Edomites pushing their paganism, and of which you have the wicked root that came out named Antiochus IV, which really established the Roman Empire mindset, Greco-Roman Empire, all right, around 168 BC, around 175 BC, all right, when he was put into power. Then you had all the way up to Julius Caesar, you know, with the triumvirate around 46 BC. You know, Julius Caesar, the one that really kicked off that whole Roman Empire around that time, and changed the dates, changed the times, created what you call Anno Domino. All right. Now it says the legs of iron. So the legs represent a transition from the eastern and western leg of Rome. You know, and the western leg fell, was wounded around, you know, between 200 and 300 AD. All right, and for 1,000 years, they had it since, you know, we had what you call the Byzantine Empire being created with Constantine the Great. All right. Around 315 AD and going on 325, where you had the Council of Nicaea and so on and so on. So that's when you get the creation of Islam, 500 AD, and so on and so on, man. All the way up to 1435, and that's when we around 1300 and 1435 AD, when the Western Roman Empire, those Edomites, those Vikings, came out of the mountains and started taking those lands back. All right, over there in Istanbul. You know, start taking those lands from the Byzantine Empire, Byzantine rulers. Now it says at the bottom, now you have which established what was called at that time the European Economic Community, or yeah, there you go, the 10 Common Markets. All right, which today still represents those banking countries, the European countries, and later became the European Union. Now you have the European Union, which represented Rome, all right, and all the Western countries, the banking elite families. The European Union, right, which was to establish a banking alliance and an alliance between those European countries to keep them from going to war, all right, and to protect the bankers. And they needed a military now. So instead of using their own resources for military, they created an extension called NATO. All right, and NATO was really established around 1949, going up 1951 in Brussels, and later amended in America, in DC, made as the home base of the military fashion for America. And America is the spearhead for NATO. Now you have what was that? And after the World War I, you had World War II, and now we're going into World War III. Now you had a guy named Giuseppe Mazzini, Illuminati agent, who came out with a promotional plan to push their agenda for dominance, world dominance, the New World Order. And who he chose was a guy named Albert Pike, and they came up with a 3-option plan for World War. And one of the wars was basically to create a conflict between nationalism and globalism. All right. And like today, a nationalist, if you look at Trump, they cut off all ties with other countries, and they say we're going to govern our country the way we want to just govern ourselves and leave us alone. That's the spirit Trump in. He in that nationalist spirit. A globalist is somebody like Hitler that want to take over the whole world. Right? But Trump might be part of the New World Order agenda, but he's saying he want to run America in the midst of that. But the globalists are saying no, they want to govern everything. And the proof is when they made their dollar and they started pushing that fully, around 1971. All right, and made that the standard and took away the gold standard. So they came up with a one world currency, and they chose the dollar to be that one world currency. And what they were trying to say is, after World War I and World War II, it was like, see, nationalism doesn't work. So what we need to do is we need to create a global system. So let's start by establishing the dollar as a global currency, a one world currency. And that's what they're doing today. And everybody like, yeah, forget nationalism. We can't do it ourselves. We need a king over us. That's the spirit everybody in, right? But today, Trump is in that spirit. Now, if they don't have a globalist in power, a globalist is going to go according to their agenda. You're going to see world war instantly, just like with Clinton. If she was in power, it would have went down quick. That's what Putin said, because she's a globalist. Now with Trump being a nationalist, that sets the stage for everybody cutting ties with each other and putting pressure on America. And that goes according to biblical prophecy, for all the pressure to be on Babylon, America, the whore, right, the daughter of Babylon. All right, so the Lord's focusing all his energy and focus towards Esau and Babylon when he bringing his destruction. Now it says at the bottom, it says, so now you have the establishment in 1991 of what you call the EU. All right, so the EU was already established though. So what was it called? The Western European Union, to where all the 10 common market countries, they all fractionalized and broke off into smaller fragments of banking elites, and formed what you call NATO with the 10 horns. And you had the European Union still. And the European Union branched out and was later called the Western European Union. That's the one that matches up with biblical prophecy, the Western European Union, because that has 7 heads and 10 horns. It's just crazy, man. All right, 7 private bankers and 10 honored countries that exist in the Western European Union. And one of those, you have NATO. They joined NATO and the European Union and the United States. So they all joined together with the Western European Union. Now, so they established the European Union, saying, hey, since we're pulling away from nationalism, let's go ahead and let Europe run everything. Yeah, that's what they did, see? And they created the Western European Union in 1992 or 91. And that's when they brought down the Soviet Union in 91 with Soros. All right, the bear went to sleep. And now, when the EU, the Western European Union, the European Union, you have what you call the Brexit, when the British exit from the European Union, which they joined around 1971 or 70s. When they broke off from the European Union in 2016, that's when you had Soviet Union. The scriptures say he gonna put hooks in that jaws, and that's when Russia was, Moscow was brought back to being that Soviet Union, man. All right, that union of all those nations over there, and they all being united and calling Moscow the capital. Gog and Magog, that whole Eurasian area is coming back together. All right, and certain countries over there, like Ukraine, is in 2014 or 2016. It was 2014. It got annexed, meaning contracted back to Moscow. So they taking all those areas again. All right. Now, what you have called the Brexit, that's what this represents. And the ITEL exit with Italy, the Frexit, the French exit, and all these countries exiting from their agreements with the European Union, which later put pressure on NATO, because if the European Union can't agree, even on immigration and wars, all right, and finances, then they're going back into that mindset of being a divided kingdom. And the Lord says clearly, a nation divided, Satan be divided against itself, it won't stand. It can't stand. That house can't stand. It's going to fall. So that's the Lord letting us know what times we in. That we in the time of the 10 toes. All right, when NATO and the EU is falling apart, and by the EU falling apart, it puts pressure on the weaker countries, and it also puts pressure on NATO. And if it put pressure on NATO, it's going to put pressure on America, ultimately. Once again, so the Lord putting the big squeeze on America, man. All right, so it says, the feet and toes of clay, kingdoms that arose after the fall of the Roman Empire. All right, so that's talking about the 10 common markets. And that goes into the European Union and NATO. And ultimately, it's going to affect NATO, all right, the beast. All right, this is Revelation 17:3. It says, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, and that woman is America, which is a spearhead for NATO, which is the scarlet-colored beast, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, all right, which is a military faction that was set up to go against the Warsaw Pact and go against Russia. All right, was set up to protect Europe against Russia, and it's a military alliance. So if anybody attacks one country, they got to attack all of them, just like the triumvirate. So it's the same mindset of Rome, the Roman Empire. It says, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast. That's the whore, America. All right, the beast is NATO, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, so NATO is basically an extension of the European Union with the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Now, a lot of those same 10 horns that come from NATO really stem out of the 10 horns of the 7 heads, 10 horns of the European Union. All right, yeah, because a lot of those banking families from Europe, the European Union, they all put in their money and put in their finances and resources to establish that monster, that beast called NATO. All right. Now, and also the military monster called America. You know, and the horror where they pimped all the nations with America, with the dollar, took all the resources, natural resources from the world, and exchange it for a fake resource, a fiat currency. Now it says, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, and having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of fornication. So that's all the philosophies and lies that America was used and pimped to rip off these nations, man. The nations are mad. They're drunk. All right. Everybody was forced to give America their currencies, and even when they bought into the dollar, they were forced to buy more dollars to maintenance the debt. All right. Because America has laden itself with thick clay, and that thick clay is debt. Now, so it was decked and made rich, and wealthy. America was called the Golden City. It was basically a mirage in the desert, a circus. So, and the filthiness of our fornications, man, of religions, of their banking system, their military, all these damn names of these streets, their whole agenda, world agenda. Now, and it says adultery, fornication, right? So it's an adulterous nation. Idolatry, it's an idol. People worship it, and it's a place of idols. America is, man, got nothing but idols over here. Just like in Babylon, just like during the times of Cyrus, just like Babel with Nimrod. Everybody coming together to push their imagination, the imaginations of man that have nothing to do with Yahweh and Yahweh Shah, the will of Yahweh. All right, they're seeking after their own imaginations. And now it says, and upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon the Great. So it's a mystery that America was Babylon. And it's a mystery that Revelation 13, America going to be the one that pushed that RFID chip, where it said it had two little horns, Democrats and Republicans. All right. That's America. Now, it says the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, man. So the one that pushing all these idols back out to the earth, all these, this witchcraft, these holidays and shit. Everybody patterned themselves after America, all these countries. Just like China, Mexico. Even Russia was trying to be like America for a little while. All right. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. And it was drunken with the blood of the saints. That's why scriptures say, woe to the bloody city. This is where they martyred the Native Americans with the tribe of Gad. All right, and basically all the tribes of Israel, man. The Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, they put hell on us over here in America. All right, this place was created for torture and bondage, according to Zechariah 5. Babylon was established, and a perverse spirit was mingled in the midst. All right, as a measure, as a weight of judgment upon the children of Israel that didn't want to do right, and to divide the sheep from the goats. In the iron furnace, what you would call the press, to where we get pressed with affliction and adversity, and the wicked are going to give in and fall into temptation, but the righteous are going to stand strong and bold as a lion and purified as gold. All right, and I saw the woman, America, drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahweh Shai. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? Right, he was seeing planes and jets and the city and probably damn rap music and shit. So he was seeing all of the damn shit that's going on in America. And he marveled at everything, like, what the fuck? And I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, so the beast that thou sawest was and is not. All right, because and it says, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And that's when the Western Roman Empire fell, and then they were reestablished. around the 1400s. What you call the Renaissance or Rebirth. Now, all right. So when they came out of the pit, which is Europe, over there near England, or the really the mountains, but they came out of the pit over there in Europe. It's called the pit. All right. Now, or the seat of Satan. All right. So it says, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And that's what they're doing. They drawing everybody into perdition, into this war, and rushing into their own destruction. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. So if your name wasn't written in the book of life, or set up for salvation, or for that penny, all right, then you were never one of the Lord's disciples or believers, ever since the foundation was laid with Peter, all right, 2,000 years ago. So, your name has to be written in the heart of Yahweh Shai, in the book. Now, written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And here is the mind, which is basically the Roman Empire, all right, really being established through NATO, all right, and also through America, the revived Roman Empire, all right, which is a small image of the European Union. And here's the mind which have wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So 7 countries that came together and put their finances and money together to uphold America, right, to establish America and NATO. And the woman is America. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. And that's talking about that 10 common markets. When that war happened, Rome fell, and then it was reestablished. It says, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. All right. And that goes into Britain being added in. And now it says, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. All right. So that's talking about the Roman Empire in Britain. Now it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received their power as kings 1 hour with the beast. All right, so that's them nations, man. Luxembourg, Netherlands, what was it? France. Yeah. Anyway, y'all, the Eastern and Western Germany. All right, and so on and so on. UK, all right, England, Ireland. All right, I can get the list, but I'm just trying to, just breeze through this. Now it says, so they receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. See, so Britain joined in with the beast, which is NATO, and the European Union countries, they joined it with and created what you call NATO in America and helped establish it. All right, which is in the Roman Empire. That's the one that was Rome. That's the one that was and yet is. All right. Because after the Western Roman Empire fell, that's when it was reestablished later, what you call the 10 Common Markets or the European Union. And then later, it was they put all their finances and resources together to create NATO and ultimately America. All right, to dress America. They adorned America with wealth. All right. These shall make war with the Lamb. So all those nations gonna make war against Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. That goes. He said gonna bring them down to the sides of the pit. So all the way from America to NATO, all the way to Europe, he's gonna bring that shit down. And he gonna make them Europeans, the nobles, those elite bankers, go into hardcore slavery first. All right. So they're gonna go down into their bunkers, try to hide in their damn space stations and in the mountains. But the Lord gonna still dig them out and bring them down and put them in the hardcore slavery. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of all kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. All right, because scriptures say many are called, but few are going to be chosen. So that's the ones that's going to be chosen that gave in that penny for the kingdom, the 144,000, man, and the 1/3. It says, and faithful, man. So we got to be faithful to Yahweh Shem Yahushai in these times and through the coming temptations that's about to arrive. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the horse sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, just like Babylon. That's why America's the daughter of Babylon. All right. Babylon took in so many nations. That was their whole thing. They had a bunch of nations up under their wings. All right, perching in their branches. And it says, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the horse sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. So those banking elites, nations and countries and leaders that stemmed out from the European Union that created NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, basically the bloc against what were they called, man? Those nations, like they call them the enemy. Russia, China, Iran, and so on and so on. The list. So it says, these shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And now they're doing it. They're eating her flesh. They're taking those elite bankers are taking all the riches, the feds. They're taking the riches and wealth from America, cutting off the privileges of America. All right. And they're moving away from the currency that they got America rich with, which is the fiat currency, the dollar. And they're moving into a crypto system where they're trying to put an RFID chip in everybody. All right, they're moving to a cryptocurrency system or blockchain system, electronic system, where they can have world dominance. All right. You can't have world dominance with a dollar. You can't. People still hide their money under the bed in banks and different things like that. But with the chip, they can monitor you, they can control you, they can cut off your chip, they can tell you how much they want on there, how much they don't want. They can take whatever they want from you without asking you taxes, anything. Threaten you. And it says, so they're making America naked. You know, America has laden itself with thick clay. And now they're stripping America of all its rulership. America going down what you call circling the drain. It's slowly decaying and dying. And they're leaving it to die. All right. But before they let it die, they're going to strip it of all its riches. Just like a pimp does a whore that it doesn't want anymore. All right. So they're going to make America desolate. And ultimately, they're going to cast in their bid to burn America with fire. For Yahweh have put in their hearts to fulfill his will. So Russia, all these nations going to come down upon America. And the Lord going to make them all fulfill his will in destroying this place. All right. And to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled, man. So the reason they even created NATO is because of the will of Yahweh. So us seeing NATO established and America established, that shows the power of our great creator, Yahweh, and his son, Yahushua, that spoke of these things from the beginning. According to 2nd Ezra chapter 9, you know, he spoke of these things from the beginning, man. And he tells the end from the beginning. Now, it says, and the woman which thou sawest is the great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So it basically reigneth over America, the whore, reigneth over all the earth as a king. All right, so now I'm going to get back to this, Daniel chapter 2 and 32. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver. So I'm going to skip down. Verse 36. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. So he said we. So he was talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and also Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah that were with him. All right. So this was all to protect not only just or to put Daniel on a pedestal. It was to protect the believers, man. All right, but Nebuchadnezzar told him, I'm gonna drape you with jewelry. I'm gonna give you all these riches and wealth and rulership in the provinces. But Daniel was like, it ain't about that. This is just to protect my people, you know. And his people were the ones that believed. All right, of Israel. Now it says, 37. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for Yahweh, the power of earth, have given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory. All right, even though the Lord loves only Israel, he's still the creator and power of all these nations. They do his will on the left-hand side, and the children of Israel do the Father's will on the left-hand and the right-hand side. All right. But ultimately, it's the Father's will to bring about a righteous kingdom upon this earth with a perfect people and a perfect nation and under Yahushua, his son. So it will be as in heaven, so it shall be in earth. Thou, O king, art the king of kings, for Yahweh, the power of heaven, have given thee a kingdom, power, and strength and glory. And wheresoever, just like you did with Pharaoh, just like you did with America, Esau. Wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven have he given into thine hand, right? Just like you did with America. He gave all these nations into America's hand. Many people, nations, and tongues. And have made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. All right. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another, so that's talking about the Medo-Persian Empire. It says, and another third kingdom of brass All right, that's talking about the Greek Empire with Alexander and the Diadochi, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And that's what Alexander did. He took over all the known earth at that time. And the whole earth was quiet before him, being scared. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. That's talking about the Roman Empire. All right, and they rule with a rod of iron over the children of Israel. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all things shall it break in pieces and bruise. You know, and that's what the Roman Empire was known for, is military. All right, and the Roman wall, what they created. So they're the ones that took us into bondage again, and also put hell on our people, man. Slaughter of Israel. Just all you gotta do is type in the war of the Jews against Rome. All right, and that's just it, man. And they put hell on us. They beat us to a pulp, to powder. Scattered our nation, 70 AD. Stole our images. Tried to put their image in our scriptures. You know, say that they're the Jews. And they did that with Antiochus, where they put up their idols and shit and mixed their idols into our scriptures. And with Caesar Borgia, they put up their picture as the Lord, according to Job 9:24. They put up Caesar Borgia, you know, all the way up till today. It's, you know, all the deception and the slavery that they put us through, stemming from the Roman Empire and the Roman Catholic Church and so on and so on. All from Esau. All right. And with the triumvirate. It says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, man. So basically saying partly strong and partly weak. And now all these nations that were with the European Union, white supremacy, they're trying to mingle with these other heathen nations like France. They're trying to go into dealing with Ham, the African nations, but they're rejecting France. All right. So it's breaking up. You got the Brexit with Britain, and them leaving is causing confusion and a divide in the European Union and NATO. All right. It says, and the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay. That's the 10 toes, man, right? Part of iron and part clay. So it still had the strength of Rome, but it was partly weak. So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. All right, so those proud Edomites not gonna mix with those other nations anymore, like they did in the Book of Psalms, where they were all confederate against us. Now they're not confederate; they're not together. They're all divided. Everybody looking for their own position in the New World Order. All right, or sovereignty, or different dealings and different business contracts or marriages. It says, and in the, so I'm gonna get this real quick. All right, see, this is ultimately to put pressure on NATO. You know, the Brexit. When Britain is leaving the European Union, they're ultimately hurting NATO, and that's what this is all about. That goes into prophecy with Daniel chapter 2. It says NATO's, actually, what a difference a day makes. On June 23rd, 17.4 million British voters cast their ballot in favor of leaving the European Union. And while they represent a tiny percentage of the population of NATO member countries, their vote radically shifts the focus of the alliance's Warsaw Summit this Friday and Saturday and will shape its future for years to come. Carefully scripted as an exercise in deterring Russia and countering hybrid security threats in the Mediterranean. That's what NATO was set up for. Brexit makes Warsaw first and foremost a summit about the West. By fracturing the EU, see, fracturing is divided. Like the scriptures say, man, Kal Halayim lay how by Shem Al Shai. We in the time of this prophecy. So it's fractured the EU. Britain has put a question mark over Western cohesion, meaning they're not cohesive anymore. They're not together. They're an open hand, not a closed fist anymore. A divided kingdom. Satan is divided against Satan. If the EU can be split, why not NATO? Says the EU split, they like, shit, why not NATO? Let's go ahead and shut down NATO too, split NATO up. All right. Beyond the official communique, friends and foes will be watching the body language to tell whether the Atlantic Company can stick together. Reassuring notes from Warsaw aren't enough to put the issue of a fragmenting Western alliance to rest. So it's divided, man. All right. Now it says, while much has been said about the economic, political, and financial fallout from the British vote, too little has been said about the geopolitical and security consequences. The sternest warning came from former NATO Secretary General and convinced Europeanist Jaap de Hoop Scheffer, who didn't mince words. Brexit is bad news for NATO, the beast. As across the Atlantic, while professing respect for the British voters. So this is heavy, man. This is all the Lord is breaking NATO down, which is ultimately going to put pressure on America. All right. It says there are two main reasons for concern about Brexit impact on NATO. You know, when you say you get the head to wobble, then the whole body falls, man. You put pressure on the base. The first has to do with Brexit's cheerleaders across Europe, who do not hide their ultimate goal of destroying the European Union. Europe's galaxy of far-right parties. Europe, right? The pit. From the French National Front to People's Party of Slovakia is not only xenophobic and anti-European, but also deeply anti-American. So they want to shut down America too. It does little to hide its sympathies towards Vladimir Putin's brand of authoritarian sovereign democracy. If these parties come into power or come close, it could swing the politics of countries such as France, the Netherlands, Denmark, and maybe even the UK against NATO. So they all wind up leaving NATO. And those are countries, some of the countries that make up NATO, right? In the European Union. You know, in the UK means United Kingdom, so it's more than just one. It's Britain, England, Ireland is broken off now, and so on. It says the second reason for concern is the uncertain future of Britain's foreign policy and its traditional role in the Atlantic context. For decades, London has skillfully played the well-rehearsed role of linchpin between Washington and the European allies. All right, so London is over there in the UK, and the head of all the UK is what? Britain. The UK has used the leverage of its special relationship with the US and its place inside the EU, right? England is the mother of America. And its place inside the EU tent to reassure both sides of the Atlantic and punch well above its weight. I'm gonna skip down. Out of the EU, British foreign policy faces a sea change. All right, we said he's seen a beast come out of the sea. That's talking about the sea of people. All right. It will not be noticeable at first, and certainly not in Warsaw. It may take up to 2 years for Britain to untangle itself from its European ties. But with the UK no longer able to broker with the EU, Washington will seek direct dialogue and cooperation with Berlin and Paris. Other allies like Italy or Netherlands will compete to replace London as transatlantic connecting links, man. So all the deals and marriages are being broken. The divorce between the UK and the EU is bound to create rifts, small and large, within the Western camp in America. In a reversal of roles, Washington is likely to find itself in a balancing act between London and European capitals, especially Berlin and Paris. So basically I'm gonna read it. It says, so once again, the task of keeping the Atlantic community united will fall mainly on American shoulders. Ooh, deep. All right, so this is Daniel chapter 2 and 43. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. See? And in the days of these kings, right? So this happening right now, the time of the Brexit. In these days, what shall Yahweh, the power of heaven, set up a kingdom? And he's doing that right now. He's setting us up, establishing us through this word. All right, Amos 9 and 8. He's going to rebuild the tabernacle of David that is fallen and close up the breaches thereof. And he prepared a table for us in the presence of our enemies. And that table represents this food in the wilderness, the manna, the spiritual food for angels, us. And what is it doing? It's edifying us. We eat the whole roll and we're to be edified, meaning built up, a spiritual house, and washing each other with the word and painting each other with the laws and the culture of our people and the memory. Building up that spiritual house, putting the right proper vessels in place under Solomon, Yahushua. All right, in the days of these, in the days of these kings shall Yahweh, the power of heaven, set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So after this, the children of Israel never be destroyed through lack of knowledge or through physical threat. And the kingdom shall not be left to another, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. In the universe, on the earth, after 1,000 years of whooping their ass and racing Esau off the earth, nobody's gonna come take it from us after that. It's gonna be the now. The present. Being present is gonna be the kingdom. right? The age. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, that's talking about Yahushua, the stone that the builders refused, right? When they crucified Yahushua, so-called black man, he's from the tribe of Judah, the lion of the tribe of Judah, right? Also spoken of in 2nd Ezra chapter 11, in Revelations. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, right? The weaker nations, the stronger nations, all these heathen nations are going to be broken by the Lord bringing down Esau, the ambassador of the heathens. Once the Lord bring them down, all these other nations are going to go in subjection under the children of Israel. All right, so the whole statue going to fall. Everybody that had us in subjection. The Persians, the Medes, the Syrians, which is the Babylonians, the Chaldeans, which are the Syrians. Not Assyrians, but Syrians. Then you had the Nubians and so on and so on. And Alexander, the Edomites, even Moab back in the 800, 900 BC, during the times of Elijah. So, where was I at? Verse 45, it says, the great power have made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure, man. All right, and that goes along with the prophecy of Daniel 9:24, with us going into bondage from Babylon all the way up to Yahushua, and the disciples being basically persecuted. All right, up to our deliverance today. Now it says, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. So he started worshiping man. That's what Nebuchadnezzar do. And the Lord said he's going to make them come and bow down before our feet. All right. And that's what Nebuchadnezzar should have did anyway. He made kings to bow down before us, man. Because we're the true kings upon this earth. Even in our subjection, he made them to bow down to us. In our captivity. So in this captivity, he's going to make these heathens bow down to us, when the hopeful elect, when the Lord raises them up. Or you see them bowing down to you when you're out there teaching. A lot of brothers got to be careful with that, trying to make Esau bow down to you, because you might think it's an Edomite, but it could be a Jake. And you can have your own brother or sister bowing down to you, or a brother bowing down to you. A woman should bow anyway. So it says, verse 47, the king answered unto Daniel and said, of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Now, if you look up the scrolls of Nebuchadnezzar, of Babylon, they wrote about our God, man, and the experiences with our God. All right, a lot of times when you hear these kings put out statements in the Bible, it was actually chronicalized in their scrolls and steels of their experience with Daniel. It was noted that he had a perfect spirit by Nebuchadnezzar, and in their experience with our God, Yahweh, and they admitted it. The Lord broke them down and made them admit that Yahweh is the true living power, not their idols, not their statues and shit. But of course, the wicked is going to continue on in their wickedness, just like Pharaoh. And the Lord controlled their hearts, keeping them in that path for their judgment. So the king answered unto Daniel and said, of a truth it is that your power, Yahweh, is a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many gifts, great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king. And that's representative of today with Yahushua when he shows up in that spirit of Daniel. All right, Daniel was in the spirit of Yahushua. All right, just like Solomon, once they say it is finished and established, Yahushua gonna set up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which are the faithful, the believers. And if you look up their names in the Hebrew, the ones that follow in that spirit, all right, of the hopeful elect. And the Lord gonna set them over all the provinces of the universe.